Do we dismiss these protests as just a bunch of kids running amok, or should we be worried about the next generation, Michelle?
Oh, I'm worried. I'm really worried if this is what we're seeing. Look, I think what we're seeing is just a growth in division, and it's being fueled by what they're getting served on social media. Now, the Greens, they have form in this argument. We've seen what they did with the pro-Palestine movement. Now, where I am from, Waverley, Bondi Beach is my ward, we saw what the local Greens councillors did there. They drove division as well, and we see how badly that ended up. So I think the Greens need to get back to doing what they used to do. Remember when they used to care about things like the environment?
No, I don't remember that. That must have been a
long time ago.
Long ago. And now they've just gone off on this tangent, and they're the ones that are fueling divisiveness. They're the ones that are fueling hate. They're the ones that are encouraging all of this.
Yeah.
What about you, Gab? Do you agree we should be worried about our young people, or can we dismiss this as a blip?
I mean, look at it. It doesn't really give you much hope for future generations. Look at those kind, tolerant, well-educated, well-articulated young people. No, I think that's as feral as it gets. And you look at the number of people that turned out and some of the messaging that we saw from that protest, very, very extreme. And I think we need to have a conversation as well, not just about the young people who attended, but also the parents and what kind of conversations are being had around the family dinner table. It's interesting. I looked at this opinion piece written in The Guardian, published by The Guardian, and the headline. There's a reason for it. Check out this headline, Michelle. I protested against Pauline Hanson 28 years ago. Now my teenager is doing the same thing. So this article is basically about how they gave their daughter permission to go and attend this rally. And then, of course, she talks about how she protested against Pauline Hanson from day one, and she wears that as some sort of badge of honour. So really, I mean, we can look at the kids and how crazy they are, and some of the messaging, which I know we will get to. But we've also got to look at the parents as well. What conversations?
You know, I wondered about that. Amongst all the feral behaviour, there were some young people calling for Pauline Hanson to be killed. Should those sort of comments be investigated by police, or it's just kids and, hey, it's just Pauline Hanson?
It's not just kids. I mean, look, it's a tough one, right? Because, we do have to, at some point, believe in free speech, but they should not be saying stuff like this. Absolutely, hands down, should not. But this speaks to a bigger issue, and that's disenfranchised youth. The youth who feel like no one is listening to them, they're getting angry, and that anger is palpable. And then you've got people like the Greens who agitate and tell them that, you have a right to be mad. And so these children think that the world is falling apart around them, and so they have to fight for what's left of it. They don't understand that there's a bigger picture at play here.
What worries me about that particular clip, Gab, is, well, I could have shown you more examples, but we chose not to because the kids looked really young.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's frightening in itself, that we've got really young kids who look to me maybe 14, 13, similarly calling for Pauline Hanson to be killed. And this is not an isolated instance. No. We saw it with Charlie Kirk over in the UK, where you had that Conservative politician killed. Many people applauding that. This is a worry.
No, I think 100% without doubt, any death threat needs to be taken seriously and should be investigated, even if it's on social media. I mean, it's just getting way too normalised. And there is evidence that there are people in the far left that are getting more and more radicalised and more extreme and are justifying violence. There's actually a YouGov poll which focuses just on the American market, but actually found that 25% of very liberal people said that violence could actually be justified to achieve a political goal. And that's compared to around 3% of conservative Americans. Of course, it should be 0. But we are seeing that. You mentioned Charlie Kirk. We've seen the assassination attempts on Donald Trump. Of course, Pauline Hanson here in Australia is seen as a bit of a Donald Trump, and any death threat should be taken seriously.
You raise a really good point in terms of the comparison with Donald Trump, because the left love to compare Pauline Hanson to Donald Trump. But you can see all the things that led up to assassination attempts against Donald Trump, the language that demonised him, the riling up of the left to feel like this is an existential threat. I mean, blind Freddie can see where this is going if people don't pull back a little bit.
Yeah, and it is interesting, because I do think Pauline Hanson does employ Trumpian tactics at some point. Like, she is intentionally doing a lot of that kind of play that he did, and he was very successful in it. But at the end of the day, we have these children who Pauline Hanson isn't really as divisive as everyone likes to make out. She's just saying what a lot of people are actually thinking.
Yeah.
Like, it's not crazy stuff that she's saying.
But politics is divisive.
I know,
mean,
it is
you're
by its very
Liberal,
nature.
I'm Labor, you're Green,
Are you really?
I'm Conservative.
Are you outing yourself on television?
Hypothetically. the point, if you don't like division, don't get involved in politics.
No, absolutely. But
there's nothing wrong with
one thing that I
arguing
learned,
over.
absolutely, and the one thing I learned is you play the politics, you don't play the person.
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're making it personal because they don't know how to play the politics.
And they're brainwashing young kids who are obviously angry. A lot of them are clearly confused. Some clearly have mental health issues. I mean, one's dressed up as a clown. That's one example. There's a lot of anger, and these kids are spewing so much hate. Do they even realise what their message is, or if they're talking about actually...
I don't even remember being that angry when I was that young.
Killing someone?
Well, you know something else I noticed at these protests, and we saw an example of it earlier, that the number of young people both giving speeches and in the crowds wearing keffiyehs. In fact, pro-Palestinians set up merchandise stalls at these anti-One Nation protests. You can see there, they're selling all the pro-Palestinian paraphernalia. Gab, what do you make of that?
It's just not very original, sadly. I know all these protesters like to think that they're unique and that they are original, but we are seeing, of course, pro-Palestinian stuff appear at all these left-wing causes, at all these left-wing protests. We see them at the Anti-Australia Day protest, the Invasion Day protest, anti-Pauline Hanson. I don't know how many of these people have actually spent much time over in that part of the Middle East, or if they really think their store is actually going to help the cause over there, and what the connection is with Pauline Hanson. But we keep seeing this at a lot of these left-wing protests.
Well, here's my question. Have the left been captured by Islamists?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we particularly saw it with Bondi. I saw it in the lead up to Bondi, the rise in anti-Semitism, and there was a real strong link between that and the pro-Palestinian movement. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that people don't fall down and follow this rhetoric. It's time and time again. Even the other night, I was having a conversation with someone about anti-Semitism and how bad it was in my neck of the woods. And they said to me, what about Islamophobia? And I could have literally shouted at their face, because I was like, name a mosque or a school where there's lots of people from Islam go to that has guards and has police outside. Like, what goes on in my neck of the woods? People do not understand. Jewish people are frightened. They're being hunted down. We saw they were hunted down, 15 of them murdered. And then for people to go, but what about Islamophobia? It really burns me up.
Right, the other thing that struck me about these protests was the sheer hypocrisy on display. So we'll finish this discussion where we began, with the Greens. Here's what Senator Fatima Payman had to say about Pauline Hanson in the Senate. Have a listen.
All that Senator Hanson does in this place is spread hatred, spread division.
And here's the independent Senator Payman at the student protest, posing with kids holding signs that say F Pauline Hanson. So when Pauline Hanson raises issues in Parliament, she's spreading hate and division. But when Fatima Payman is celebrating kids holding up those sorts of signs, well, Gab, that's a valid form of political activism.
Look at the kindness coming from that sign. The smile was right there. This is the hypocrisy, isn't it? I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah. But this is the kind, tolerant left for you. But clearly, there's a lot of people attending these rallies that really just, I think, hate the country. It's not even just about hating Pauline Hanson. As you pointed out, there was pro-Palestinian stuff. And so plenty of these causes are all kind of getting, I suppose, like swept up into one. And there's Fatima Payman with that really friendly sign, F, say, you know, I don't want to repeat it, but it's...
But even when they would stand it, like when the right stood in front of a sign that said ditch the witch, the left lost their minds, right?
Yep.
It's just like, do as I say, not as I do kind of action. I can't with the hypocrisy from the left at the moment. I just can't.
Michelle, Gab, I really appreciate you joining me on a Sunday night. Thanks so much. Good discussion.
Everyone wants to talk about Pauline Hanson. Nobody wants to talk about the machine that keeps making her the main character. Because whether you love her, loathe her, or simply tolerate her existence, the real story is not one woman in a bright pink jacket. It is a system quietly teaching an entire generation that outrage is identity. Let us start with the algorithm, the great puppeteer nobody elected. Social media does not reward nuance, it rewards fury. A calm policy debate gets 11 likes. A furious chant gets 1 million views. So platforms feed young Australians an endless diet of anger. And anger, like sugar, becomes addictive fast.
Now bring in the organisers. Recent walkouts against One Nation, backed by student unions and cheered on by Greens figures, were framed as spontaneous youth rebellion. But look closer and the picture gets murkier, with adults very much steering from behind the megaphone. That is not automatically sinister, plenty of movements start with adult mentorship, but it does complicate the tidy story of purely organic teenage fury.
Then there is the family dinner table, the original algorithm. One widely shared account from a mother explained she protested Hanson 28 years ago, and now her own teenager does exactly the same thing. Passion, it turns out, is hereditary. Grievance gets passed down like a family heirloom. Updated for a new decade, new hashtags, same fire. And here comes the plot twist. While politicians publicly condemn division, some are photographed standing shoulder to shoulder with signs demanding a senator be gone, in far cruder language. That is the credibility gap in a nutshell. You cannot lecture the nation about civility from one side of your mouth while cheering hostility from the other. Meanwhile, actual death threats are landing in real courtrooms, not just comment sections. That should terrify everyone, regardless of politics. When disagreement curdles into "I will hunt you down," democracy is not being debated anymore, it is being threatened. So, before anyone calls these teenagers feral, ask why so many young Australians feel unheard, underfunded on mental health support, and boxed into identity slogans instead of real policy conversations. Angry kids are usually a symptom, rarely the disease. This is not really about Pauline Hanson. It is about whether Australia still knows how to disagree without wanting each other dead. Thanks so much for watching. We genuinely appreciate you spending this time with us.